Hello, come on in. How y'all doing this evening? I'm glad y'all here. Hello, completely lawless. Yes, I'm ready to go. I have pages and pages and pages of notes. I even highlighted my notes today. So come on in and let's talk about it. I am also live over on YouTube. So you can find me over there also. But let's talk about this because today was, as you say, Brandy, today was more crazy and it was incredibly sad. Was today better than yesterday? Today was, wow. So today was a lot of testimony from um, Diddy's personal assistant. The subject matter was heavy, but it was really interesting. It was I wish I could be there tomorrow to see the cross examination. Um, I think the cross examination is going to be really tough for this woman. And if you, I'm going to talk to you all about her demeanor because I think to, really understand her testimony, you've got to kind of understand what this woman's demeanor was. And it was, I mean, it was a very interesting day from the beginning to the end. So thank y'all for coming on in. Thank y'all for tapping the screen and share the live. And we're going to get started. And if y'all want to find me over on YouTube, you can find me on YouTube. And I think I put in the beginning the info on how to find me on YouTube. Hello, Hayes. Hey, KDM. I am here. So I am actually in New York for a totally different event. I just kind of came a couple of days early so I could go to the Diddy trial. But I am actually here for something else, and I had a dinner I had to go to tonight. So I'm just getting back from that dinner, and I am ready to share my notes, my pages and pages and pages of notes with you all. Hello, Angela from Detroit. Come on in. Welcome. Hi, Debbie. So, y'all, I have intentionally avoided what my YouTube, I understand it's under Danielle Bess. So, Danielle, then B as in boy, ESS. And I think in my, like my comment that's at the top, it has it there. Hello, Ginger Robertson. Come on in. We are going to talk about this. So I haven't even had time to post a lot of videos today about what happened. And thank you all for the follows. Hello, Shondan. Y'all come on in. Oh, the home of Prince. We heard a little bit about Prince today. Oh my gosh. So Crimson Boudoir, we're going to talk about this woman's demeanor. Because to me, it was a little unusual. Hello, Nidra Ball. So I have avoided watching any other social media about the testimony today. I have not read any news articles because I was there, and I don't want my observations or my opinion, my impressions to be tainted by what other people are writing. So I said, after I go live, I'm going to read other people's opinions, and I'm going to watch other people's videos. And my opinion may be a little different. We'll see. But I didn't want to be tainted. I felt the way the jurors must feel in the Diddy trial when the judge told them don't read anything on social media or the newspapers or the news about the trial. So I have been avoiding it since we got out of court. So let's talk about, as people are coming in, I'll just tell y'all that the a line this morning getting into court. Shandon, no, actually, so my law partner was in the courtroom with me, and her take was different from mine. So she had a different take, and and it's okay. So I talked to my law partner about her take. I talked to another person who was in the courtroom. Our takes were more aligned. I talked to another guy who was sitting near us. He was more with my law partner. So it was like it was really interesting how, there I talked to about 5 or 6 people and our opinions differed. And I was telling them that okay, go ahead. All right, so my daughter is in the room with me. We're in New York. This hotel room is actually a little small, so I'm just moving my camera so she can get her stuff. My children do not like to be on social media, so I have to respect. Oh, they don't like to be on my social media. Okay, all right, that's fine. I don't care. Um, but y'all come on in and we're going to talk about it. And please don't get upset with me if y'all think my take is not, if my take is not the same as your take. But we were talking about how our opinions were different. And I said, that's just like the jurors. They may have 12 different opinions about the testimony and the evidence that they've been hearing. But from the very, did you see Mia? No, we could see her. Somebody else asked me that. Nope, we could see her. Okay, guys. So there's 500 of y'all in here. I don't want to, have to repeat, but let me just tell you from the very beginning this morning, in the line was contentious. People were about to fight in the line. So in the line this morning, these people are very serious about people skipping the line. There's a member, not someone official, but someone who has designated herself as the person who counts and makes sure people are in the right place. So somebody tried to skip the line this morning, and the folks were not having it. People have paid to have people in that line overnight, and they were not going to allow this woman to skip the line. And so there were some words exchanged, and there were some threats that were made. But ultimately, things calmed down a little bit when we got inside. But just, starting off from the bat, things were a little wild out there. So, yes, yeah, people do not like folks cutting the line. Yes, it was a serious matter, friend. So, okay, where do I start, guys? So, y'all know we did finish Dante's testimony today. Deontay's testimony. Deontay Nash, he says he's Cassie's best friend. And he was cross-examined today. Yesterday, when the attorney started the cross-examination, it started out rough. It was not, he did not start off very well with his cross-examination. Well, I'm glad to report that he improved tremendously today, although he still kind of dwelled on issues for far too long. But he did improve today, and we finished up his cross-examination. And the most notable things from Deontay's cross-examination, let me see what I have as the most notable things. Okay, so they talked about he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He had about 5 or 6 calls and meetings with the government before he testified. And they pointed out that his testimony has been changing. He's left stuff out. He's added things. His testimony has not been completely consistent. So but Deontay was like he was pushing back. He was very sassy. He was not just answering questions. He was very, very sassy. So at one point that we got to some questions which I guess were leading to Cassie and Michael B. Jordan. And Deontay interrupted the attorney who was cross-examining him and said, Mr. Donaldson, let's just get to it. You want to know about Cassie and Michael B. Jordan. And yes, I did set them up. And so the attorney was like, okay, well, let's talk about Cassie and Michael B. Jordan. Thank you so much for that gift, Brianna. And I know there were two gifts, Brianna and Dinky Shop. Thank you. I appreciate that lightning bolt and that heart and that heart. So he was like, so the attorney was like, okay, let's talk about Cassie and Michael B. Jordan. So according to Deontay, he said Cassie was fine, Michael B. Jordan was fine, and so he wanted to set them up. And he said at the time that he set them up, Gina, I mean Diddy, Puffy, was at the revolt with Gina. So he was with somebody else. So according to him, they were not together anymore. And he said that he helped facilitate them getting together. And he said that Cassie began communicating with Michael B. Jordan and they were dating or getting to know each other. So they didn't go into how deep their relationship was, but he did acknowledge that they had a relationship. Then the attorney started asking him about other relationships that Cassie had with other people. Now, some of these names I had not heard before. And y'all come on in. So I am talking about the trial. We are going to get to the explosive part of the trial today, which was Diddy's personal assistant who testified. But I'm taking y'all through the beginning where Deontay was finishing his cross-examination. So, but there were other names of men Cassie had been involved with. One was Andre Brecht. Are y'all familiar with him? And of course, and so Deontay said, I don't know who that is. Then he's like, oh, I know who that is, the cute football player Cassie was in a relationship with. So he acknowledged Cassie was in a relationship with him, Andre Brecht. Do y'all know who this football player is? Is he cute? Do y'all know who I'm talking about? Then they asked about Brandon from the NBA. And Cassie was in a relationship with him while during the time period that Capricorn Clark was working for Diddy in 2016. So those were two new names that came up. They went over some text messages between Deontay and Cassie. And according to Deontay, Cassie was not that pressed about Gina. But she was upset because she thought Diddy being with Gina publicly, it was hurting her career. And that Puffy was running around with other women and that was hurting her career and humiliating her. But according to Deontay, when Diddy was dating other women, Cassie could go out with other people and do her own thing. So they were trying to make it sound like Diddy having other women was, good for Cassie because Cassie could go out and, be free. So, they went over some more about whether she wants to go to these hotels or not. There were messages between Deontay and Gina. Excuse me. Let's see. I'm trying to find these text messages. Oh, they showed text messages around the time that Deontay had testified that he saw Gina with two black eyes. They showed text messages and pictures of Gina, and she didn't have black eyes. So, make of that what you will. But, there were no black eyes in those pictures anyway. And then they talked about whether these alleged videos that they are claiming Diddy was going to expose on Cassie, whether those videos were actually on Cassie's phone. And so there was, so Deontay testified that he did tell the government that the videos were on Cassie's phone. So if the videos were on Cassie's phone, how was Diddy going to expose the videos? So that was one of the things that came out in the cross examination. Then we talked some more about that 29th birthday party. I mean, that 29th birthday party, we have heard a lot about that. Oh, okay. One of the other things that came out, there was all this testimony about Cassie's 29th birthday party. Deontay said that Diddy made Cassie go to a hotel for a freak off. Well, it came out today that Deontay didn't tell the government that until after Gina testified. I'm sorry, until after Cassie testified. So that information came out, or he told the government that information for the first time after after Cassie testified. Who is that saying Diddy Combs on here? He owned her phone. Somebody saying he owned her phone, but she had the the suggestion was, I mean, she had possession of her phone. So maybe he owned the phone, but she had possession of the phone. JJ Fox, I agree. The whole trial is sad. Okay, fake Diddy. I don't know who you are. Okay, so let me finish this up so we can get to what I know y'all want to know about, which is the personal assistant. I know that's what y'all are here for. So they also talked about how after the freak off in Vegas January 1st, after that, Diddy and Cassie went to Mexico and there were some text message exchanges. And, they were trying to make it appear that even if Cassie had been involved in a freak off in Vegas, she turned around, went to Mexico with Diddy, and they were having a good time. She was enjoying herself. So that's what they were trying to impress upon the jury. Um, and then they kind of ended the testimony with the fact that Deontay was still involved, was still friends with Diddy. He would text him, he would say things to him like, I love you, bro. They continued to have a friendly relationship. And as late as January 2019, Deontay had sent Diddy a message saying, sending you my love. And I think a friend of Diddy's had died or something. And then Diddy responded, no, nigga, we were fam. We were fam. And then he goes on to say, the trainer, you could have given a nigga a heads up. And I'm reading from, what I wrote that the text message actually said. And then he's like, how is she? Asking about Cassie. How is she? Make sure she's all right. If she needs me, reach out. So that was what he was saying about Cassie, and that was kind of the end of their relationship. What was Diddy's body language? During Deontay's testimony, Diddy was pretty relaxed. But he was doing a lot of notes. He was making a lot of notes, and they were passing a lot of notes to the attorney who was cross-examining Deontay. So he seemed to be very involved in the testimony. And I noticed that when they would hand notes to the attorney during the cross-examination, that the attorney would look at it and it appeared that whatever, that he was following up on those questions on the notes. So So for Deontay's testimony, he looked pretty relaxed. Now I told y'all yesterday how Diddy um smiled and waved at me, and people were like, do you know Diddy? No, I don't know Diddy, but maybe Diddy thinks I'm somebody else, because today when he came in from a break, what I really think is happening, he came in from a break and there were not a lot of people in the courtroom, and I was in the courtroom, and he did have his sons there today, his mom, he had some people there. And when he came in the courtroom today, he looks at me again, he smiles and he waves again. And I'm like, I think he got me mixed up with somebody else. He thinks I'm somebody that I'm not. And so today I just did like that. But yeah, so I think Diddy, I don't know. Diddy might think I'm somebody, I don't know. And then somebody was joking, was like, maybe he follows your TikToks. So the testimony of the personal assistant started about 10:35. And it took the whole day. So it started about 10:35 and it took the whole day. So first of all, the witness was called Mia. Her name, and that's a pseudonym, which means it's not her real name. And so the judge read an instruction to the jurors, and he said, this witness will be testifying under the pseudonym Mia. I think it was Mia Foster. So she's testifying under the pseudonym Mia Foster, and the official record will show that her name is Mia Foster. However, the attorneys and the jurors will know her real name. So we could see her. So, no, we're talking about the testimony today of the witness who was called Mia. So we could see this witness. We could see her face. She was in the courtroom, and she was right there, so we could all see her. Now, somebody in the courtroom, in fact, one of my law partners, my law partner calls herself a wigologist. She says she can spot a wig from anywhere. And she said Mia had on a wig. So I am not a wigologist. I cannot tell if it's a wig or not, but I trust her opinion. She said that is a wig that she has on. So Mia may be trying to ensure that her identity is protected. So Leisha Lee, you're saying you can tell. I looked, so after she told me that, I looked and I did notice that how the parts for the wigs, they look a little different from your scalp. And the way her hair was parted, it looked real deep. So, and the reason I'm saying this is because number one, she's using a pseudonym. And number two, if she was wearing a wig, it just suggests to me that she's very concerned about her privacy and people knowing who she is. And that's why I would assume she would be wearing a wig. Well, when she came into the courtroom to testify, I asked everybody around me. I wrote on my notepad, "Do you know who she is?" And nobody knew who she was. So nobody was, she was a personal assistant for Diddy, but she was not somebody who apparently was very famous or celebrity. But no, it was not Aubrey O'Day. This is not somebody who people know. Nope, she did not look Hispanic. Somebody is saying her name is Sarah S. I don't know what her name is. All I know is in the courtroom today, she was Mia Foster. The jurors know her name, and in fact, they knew her name from the very beginning because there was a an exhibit where they showed the jurors her passport so that they would know who she is. So let me tell you a little bit about her demeanor because initially I thought, okay, she's nervous, and that's why that's what her demeanor is about. And then, once she gets a little more comfortable testifying, her demeanor is going to change. But her demeanor, the entire testimony was like, when people say, oh, she's like a shrunken violet, somebody who is like looks very timid, very, in some ways fragile. So the entire time she is testifying, she was like this, looking down. So imagine somebody is standing in front of me and they're asking me questions, and I'm doing like this. Whatever the question is, what's your name? Danielle Bess. Where do you live? Georgia. I mean, the entire time she was literally looking down. She never looked at the jurors. She never looked, she only occasionally, I mean, and when I say occasionally, I can probably count on my two hands the number of times she looked at the prosecutor. Her head was down the entire time, and she was kind of moving from side to side like this. She didn't really speak in complete sentences. Sassy, no, we're not demeaning her. I'm telling you what her demeanor was. So I'm just being factual. Why she was doing that, I don't know. That might be her normal everyday demeanor. I don't know. But she was kind of moving from side to side. She never spoke in complete sentences. Her 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 speaking was very halting. Um I mean, at all. But the defense did not object. They did not object, and I think they are being very careful about how they treat this woman. So that's how things started off. Um So I'm just reading my notes here. She was looking down during her testimony. Oh, yeah. So what I wrote initially, I was like, she was looking down like she was reading something. I thought she had something in her lap or in front of her that she was reading, because she was like literally, what's your name? Danielle. And, she was looking down. So, anyways, um, one of the first questions she was asked is, what was the work environment like? And she said it was chaotic, it was toxic, it was exciting. She said the highs were really high and the lows were really low. Then she was asked questions about Combs and how he behaved toward her. And she said Combs was violent toward her. He threw things at her, threw her against a wall, threw her in a pool, slammed her arm in a door, and sexually assaulted her on more than one occasion. She said all of this while she was looking down. So if you imagine I'm reading this from something in my lap, she literally, her head was down like this. She said Combs was violent. He threw me against the wall. He threw me in the swimming pool. So all of that I just said, she said it with her head down, kind of looking down. And the jurors were looking at her like they were like very observant. They were paying attention. I did see some of them writing, but I saw quite a few of them not writing and just kind of paying attention to her testimony. And sometimes when jurors are testifying, you'll see them going, like, they'll look at the prosecutor who's asking the question. They'll turn back and look at the witness. They'll go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I saw that during the cross examination yesterday. The first cross examination yesterday. They look at Brian Steele. They look at the witness. They were going back and forth. Today, they were not doing that. They weren't going back and forth. They were not looking at the prosecutor. Their eyes were on the witness. They were paying attention to her. So, she said that she worked for Mike Myers. And remember, Mike Myers was on the witness list, and nobody was really sure why he was on the witness list. I think this is why he was on the witness list, because of the personal assistant. Now, I don't know if it was the defense or the prosecution who had her on the witness list, but she used to work for Mike Myers. So, she has worked for a celebrity before. And so she worked for Mike Myers, and she was his personal assistant. And she started working for Puff in 2009 until 2017. And when she started working for him, she was 26 years old. She said she was 25 or 26 when she started working for him. So this is how she described. Hi, Danielle Melissa. Yes, this is the Jane Doe who was called Mia. So she was called Mia. Justin Bieber is not going to testify in this case. So, thank you, Sissy. But y'all know I got filters on, right? Y'all know TikTok has like an automatic filter. So I'll take it, but there's a filter. I don't want y'all to see me in real life and say, girl, what happened to your skin? So she was 25 or 26 when she started working for Puff. So this is her interview with Puff. Very first interview, very first meeting. So she first went through HR, human resources, y'all. Human resources. You know, the people who are supposed to be responsible for the employees to make sure they're being treated fairly, and also the company is not doing things that are illegal. The person from human resources took her to Diddy's apartment in New York, his home in New York, for her interview. When he opened the door, he was in his underwear. He had his drawers on. He was in his underwear. So she goes to his house. He's in his underwear, and HR leaves her there. So HR is like, here, I got a package for you. I'll see you later. So they leave her at Diddy's. She said there were other people in the house. She said Derek Roach was also in the apartment. But when Puffy answered the door, he was in his underwear and on his phone. Now, I came back to my hotel room and I asked my 25-year-old daughter, I said, daughter, if you went to an interview and the person interviewing you were in their underwear, what's your next move? What are you doing? And my daughter's like, Mom, that would never happen in real life. And I said, I just heard testimony that it happened in real life. And I want to know, what would you do? Y'all tell me, what would you do? What would you do? Yeah, okay. I see y'all saying leave, but I want to hear from the people who say they would stay. And I want to understand why. Somebody said I reschedule. Reschedule to when? The 5th of February? When you gonna reschedule that? But I really want to hear from people who say they would not have left, because I think, everybody says, "Oh, I would leave." But I think there are people who would not leave. That people would stay, and they would have their reasons for staying. Sometimes people stay because they don't know what to do. Um Sometimes people are faced with a situation like that, then you may be frozen, and you may not want know what to do. And so, Tally, I agree, but you never know what you would do in the moment, especially when it's somebody who's famous, who's charismatic. You're looking for a job. Okay, Sean Dunn. If it was Michael B. Jordan, you might stick around. Oh my gosh. Vegas sues. You said if it's Diddy and you want that crowd, I would stay. Why, what people's motivations are, they're all different. And I know everybody thinks, oh, I would leave. But the reality is, we don't really know. But I wanted to make sure my 25-year-old daughter, I want to have that conversation with her. Like, what would you do? She's like, I'm getting the hell out of there. That's the right answer. But, sometimes you got to um, have a plan. So, so she did not leave. She went into the apartment. HR introduced her and left. Now, that was the part that really got me. I'm like, why would you leave this 25, 26-year-old woman for this interview when her boss is in underwear? So she said she was excited and nervous and eager. She said he did put his pants on, he did put his clothes on. And she was told she would work a lot. And they joked about working 24/7. And she said that it wasn't that when they told her it'd be 24/7, she wasn't that shocked, because when she worked for Mike Myers, he also told her she worked 24/7. But in reality, for him, she worked from 10 to 6. Sometimes she was expected to work on the weekends, but not every weekend. Her base salary with Diddy, she was told it would be $55,000, but it ended up being $50,000. So somebody is saying, AB says, since she didn't tell immediately, she passed the Diddy test. And I'm going to tell y'all right now, one of the things that occurred to me when I was listening to this testimony, people talked about how Diddy was grooming Cassie. Diddy also groomed his employees. He tested them to see how much they would take. He tested them to see how much he could push the envelope with them. And the more they let him push that envelope, the more he took, the more extreme he got. So he was grooming Cassie, he was grooming employees, he was grooming all these people. Yes. So somebody is saying all that money he has, and he was only paying her. He was actually only paying her. It was supposed to be 55,000 a year, but it actually ended up being only $50,000 a year. When y'all hear what she went through, you're gonna be like, $50,000. But yeah, $50,000. Now, I noticed during her testimony, Diddy was shaking his head often. Like, she'll say certain things, and he'd be shaking his head like, no, that's not true. That type of shake of the head. So he was, certainly reacting. I didn't see as much writing and that kind of stuff going on during her testimony. But he was definitely shaking his head, you know. So um so right off the bat, she talked about the fact that she worked more than 40 hours per week. The first day of work, the first day of her job, she was sent to New Jersey to do some organizing or sorting at one of Puffy's properties. So she worked at that location for 40 hours. And after working there, Puff wanted her to go to the studio. She goes to the studio and she works until wait for it. Now remember, she's already worked 40 hours. She goes to the studio and she works until 1 p.m. the next day. Did y'all hear what I said? She worked until 1 p.m. the next day. Tone W803 so is asking, I thought her identity wasn't supposed to be discussed. So she testified under a pseudonym. So her name was not released in court. Now, if somebody knows who she is and they know her name, there's nothing to prevent them from saying, oh, that was Jane Doe, who was up there testifying. But the people that I was around today and I asked about if they knew who she was, like, do y'all know who this woman is? Everybody was like, no, they don't know her. Nobody knew who she was. So she was not she was Mia, what she was called on the stand. That was her pseudonym. She was not a celebrity. She wasn't somebody who was very well known. I wouldn't say her name. Yeah, I mean if you said her name, you would not get in trouble, So I mean, the court can't police everybody. I mean, we still have a First Amendment in this country. I was told you aren't legally responsible for your actions if you're forced to work. I lost the message. But anyways, so I'm trying to answer some of y'all questions because I know the questions are kind of contemporaneous. Did the judge warn people not to out her? No, the judge did not warn people not to out her. The judge did tell people, and I think especially people in the overflow room, because I guess some of them may have their cameras or something. He said nobody was to record her. And so that is what the judge said. The day before, the government had asked that the overflow room be closed, that the television feed to the overflow room be cut so that the people in the overflow room could not see her. And the judge said, no, he was not going to do that because the overflow room was an extension of the courtroom. And remember, in our country, court proceedings are public proceedings. They are not private proceedings. So the judge wouldn't allow that. And so what he said today is that nobody was to record her. And in federal court, you're not supposed to be recorded anyways. So Sherry is saying a salary employee does not qualify for overtime pay. That is not quite accurate. Salary employees who make a certain amount and who have certain job classifications are not entitled to overtime pay. I used to practice employment law and handle wage and labor overtime claims. And her classification is not one. Her job is not one of those classifications where she would be exempt from overtime law. And her amount of pay, I don't know what the law was back in 2009 when she started working, but I'm not sure that her pay would have qualified either. I'm an attorney judge. I've not been able to keep up with what's going on. Any bombshells? Joyce, yes, there are some bombshells. There was a major witness who testified today, and that witness had some shocking testimony about Diddy. And actually, she for y'all talking about she wasn't entitled to overtime. She testified that she was told she was going to get it overtime. So her base salary was 55, was supposed to be 55, but they ended up paying her 50, and she was told that she would get overtime. So she said at one point during her employment, she did not sleep for 5 days straight while she was working for Puffy. She said for 5 days, this man kept her up, 5 entire complete whole days. I was thinking that there is no way. There's no way that physically I could do it. And she said she was taking Adderall and that helped keep her up. But she said eventually her body broke down and she couldn't hear. She said it was like she was underwater and she couldn't hear. She broke into tears and she was hysterical. And that's when he let her go to sleep. So, yeah, that sounds crazy. It really does sound crazy. So in November of 2011, remember she's hired in 2009. So in 2011, Diddy is, verbally, I would say verbally abusive. And he was saying things to her like, "You're useless. I don't know what you do around here. What's your job? What do you even do?" That kind of stuff. So she sent a list of responsibilities to his chief of staff. And because of that comment, and that this woman had a list of responsibilities, I think it was like 2 or 3 pages long, all the things that she did for Diddy. So it included things like staying within his eyesight. Did y'all hear what I said? Staying within his eyesight. Hi, Hayes. How are you? I see you over here. Thanks for coming over here to YouTube. So, yeah, guys, I'm on YouTube live also. So if you want to go on YouTube, it's actually easier to see questions on YouTube because there's so many questions here in this live. It's hard to really see them. Um, but I was like, what kind of job duty is that? Staying within his eyesight. So I couldn't write down all of them. The type was pretty small, but I was trying to look and I'm like, what the hell does that mean? And then one of her job duties was thinking for PD before he thinks of it. And I'm like, what does that mean? Thinking for PD before he thinks of it. And the example was like, if it's going to rain, then she needs to prepare him for the rain, have his umbrella, that kind of stuff. All right, Mr. Cedric, we're going to talk about that. We're going to look at this complaint again. Yeah, people are asking why didn't she go to the EOC? Why didn't she complain? Y'all, I can't tell you why she didn't. I don't know. Why did she go forward with the interview when she saw this man in his underwear? I don't know. Mr. International sounds like she's a malingerer. I would not call her a malingerer. This woman was doing a lot of work. She said that PD can ask you to do 17,000 things at one time. And I wrote a note. I wrote in my notes when when this testimony was going on that this is an example of how people will push you as far as they think they can. And as long as you allow them to push you, they're going to keep going. This is just my commentary. This was something I wrote when I was listening to her testimony. So, so she further testified that she was not able to leave Diddy's homes whenever when she was not able to leave Diddy's home whenever she wanted. She had to ask his permission in order to leave. Now, this is an employee. This is not a personal, this is not a romantic relationship. This is an employer employee relationship, and she's being paid $50,000. So, but she said that she could not leave Diddy's home whenever she wanted to. She had to ask his permission. And she said one night it was super late, and she was desperate to see some of her friends. Now, a lot of this testimony, they were not telling the time frame. So they not were not telling us, was this 2009, was this 2011? But the defense wasn't objecting, so the testimony was coming in. She said she was desperate to see some of her friends, and so she left to meet up with her friends, and she got in trouble. Now, this woman is at least 26 years old. We are talking about her employer. So she says she got in trouble. And security called, Diddy's security called to let her know that Diddy was sending security to get her, to find her. And I had to keep asking myself, was this an employee employer relationship, or was this a romantic relationship? Because wasn't he doing this with Cassie? He wouldn't let Cassie out of his sight, calling her constantly, sending security for her. Okay, Cassie is his woman, is his partner, but why are you doing this with your employee? And so she said that the security people were Uncle Polly and D Rock. She said she was not allowed to lock her bedroom door when she stayed at Diddy's house. So some of the employees would stay at Diddy's house, including some of the security. The security folks were allowed to lock their doors, but she was not allowed to lock her door. He said, this is his house. She can't lock no door in his house. I was like, well, damn, I think I've said this to my kids. Don't be locking doors in my house. But I am their parent, so I think I can say that. But I mean, what do you think about your employer telling you you can't lock your bedroom door? I mean, I don't think I could sleep at night if I couldn't lock my door if I wanted to. But that was her testimony. So she wasn't allowed to lock her doors when she stayed with him. For about a year, she was the only personal assistant that he had, and she said she felt insane because of all the work that she had to do. And some of the assistants left, so they called out a couple of names, like 3 or 4 names. Did this person leave? Did that person leave? So there were assistants who were coming and working with him, and then they were leaving. So not everybody came and stayed, but she didn't leave. She said her experiences were different from the other personal assistants. She never got time off. And she said the other 2 personal assistants that Diddy had time off all the time. She was punished. She was cursed at. She was humiliated. She was insulted. And her job was constantly threatened. And I would have said, man, give me a good time and fire me. Let me have a good time. Fire me. But that was her testimony, that she was treated differently. And so at this point, all we know about her relationship with Diddy, now we know from the very beginning she says that he sexually assaulted her. Oh, thank you so much for that beautiful, beautiful heart. Don't call me. Who is that? Is that Don't Call Me Bob? I have a cousin named Don't Call Me Bob, but I can't see who that was. But thank you very much for that. Um, So all we know at this point is that Diddy was her employer, but the way things are sounding and going, this something sounds very off about this relationship because there is no employer who is going to curse at me, humiliate me, make me work for 5 days in a row, not pay me overtime. I mean, that's just not going to happen. So they talked about some of the other personal assistants that he had around this time. And Foxy is saying the victim shaming here is crazy. I am not victim shaming. I mean, I can speak my truth about what I would or would not do. And whatever you think about this woman or about Diddy, I have to believe that that we can agree that what was happening here was not normal, that it was not normal under any circumstances. Now, you some people may attribute it to Puffy. Of course, his behavior was not normal, but I understand those people who also say it was not normal for someone to be subjected to this. Now, we're not talking about an intimate relationship. We're not talking about a romantic relationship. We are talking about an employment relationship. And she wasn't even making that much money. So, but anyways, yeah, y'all can leave the chat. As Melanie said, y'all can leave the chat. But let us continue. Um, so they talked about one, two, three, four other personal assistants that he had and who left. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. So eventually she gets a raise. I mean, she gets elevated. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I think that's my cousin. I can't see the full name. I see the "Don't Call Me," but I have a cousin who's called whose name on here is "Don't Call Me Bob," and that's who I'm thinking it is. So thank you, if that is you, cuz. Thank you for the beautiful gifts. I appreciate it. But she finally was elevated to a new position, and her new position was Director of Development for Revolt Films. And she said this was sort of her dream. When she went to New York as a young woman, it was with the hopes of being involved in movies, and I think she wanted to write and produce movies. And so this position was like what she had been working for, what she wanted to do. And so she became the director of development for Revolt Films. She worked directly with Diddy. And so they worked on movies, they worked on productions, this type of stuff. Oh, it's Don't Call Me Reggie. Okay, thank you, Don't Call Me Reggie. I couldn't see the full name, it was cut off. And when I tried clicking on it, I couldn't see it. But thank you, Reggie. I appreciate it. So her base salary was now $70,000. So she got a raise. And eventually it went up to $100,000. Then we had a break. And then when she came back, they started asking her about Cassie and her relationship with Cassie. And she said that she and Cassie were like sisters. They were best friends, that she was best friends with Cassie. She is still friends with Cassie today, and they are still very close. Now, I'm like, this is the second person who said they're best friends with Cassie. So Deontay yesterday said they were best friends, and now uh, what's her Mia is saying they're best friends. Big question. I don't like Diddy or his music. I don't follow the trial. All I hear is salacious details. So so they're best friends. And then they asked her about Cassie and Diddy's relationship. She said there was a cycle of highs and lows. There was a cycle of highs and lows. that the relationship was unequal and equal. I'm not sure what that means. Toxic and abusive towards her. And then there was an email that they showed from Cassie to Diddy and other people at his record label. And the email said, I have to pull out of the show because of overages. And so this is going to the Rico guys. So this email is showing the um, that the label was involved in how Cassie was being treated, because one of the claims they're making is that Cassie was denied the opportunity to pursue her career through the label because of Diddy. And so this goes to that. So this email shows that Cassie was had to pull out of some kind of show because of overages and she couldn't perform. Now there was a question about at the end about, well, did Cassie actually perform? And I couldn't hear what the answer was. So I described at the beginning how this woman was testifying. So the entirety of her testimony, it was like she was looking down and she was reading a book. It's like I'm talking to you all like this the entire time. My head is down, and I'm not looking up. I'm reading the whole time, every single question. And it was also very difficult to hear her. At one point, we were like leaning forward in the rows to try to, lean forward and see if we could hear better. And then one of the marshals came over and told one of the guys, lean back, don't do that. So we had to stop doing that. And I see people saying she didn't want to see Diddy. And that might be true, but she didn't look at the person who was asking her the questions also. She didn't have to look at Diddy. She could have, when I read about Cassie's testimony, they said Cassie did not look at Diddy, but she did look at the prosecutors and she would look at the witnesses. But that didn't happen with Mia. So she also testified that Cassie, let me see, did the defense cross-examine that Corrine? No, the defense has not cross-examined her yet. That will probably start sometime tomorrow, and they are predicting it may go until Monday. So, it may spill over into next week. Hello, Grand Duchess. I'm glad you made it. I don't know what RICO means. Need to Google this. I'm going to talk a little bit about it because there were a lot of questions from people in the courtroom, just people, I was talking to about, well, how's this RICO? What does this have to do with the case? And I want to talk about that. Slowly but surely, prosecution is bringing the RICO part together. Yes, so the prosecution did do a lot between yesterday with Deontay and also today, where this witness talked about Cassie to try to bring their RICO case together. So she said that Cassie was pursuing acting and that Diddy was very involved in the final decisions for Cassie when it came to her acting career. So again, Rico, she's explaining how Diddy and his, through his enterprise was controlling her career and interfering with Cassie's career. She said that Cassie's finances, she knew that, so she started saying that she knew that the office paid her credit cards, but there was an objection and the judge would not allow the prosecution to continue with that questioning. So she started to say, she said she knew that the office paid for her credit cards, Cassie's credit cards. And she started saying, one time Cassie said, I don't have enough money. Then there was an objection and we couldn't hear whatever else she was going to say. Then she said she was asked how if Puffy would punish Cassie. She said yes, he would take Cassie's car, jewelry, and something else. Again, I couldn't hear what she said. I don't know what the something else was when he was upset or couldn't get her on the phone. He said that she and Cassie were not able to go where they wanted to and when they wanted to. They had to have Diddy's permission. Thank you all so much for the follows. I appreciate it. I appreciate it 100%. Somebody's asking if Will Smith testified yet. No, and no, I don't think Will Smith is going to testify. He is not going to testify. Thank you for the paper crane. That is so beautiful. Thank y'all for the follows. I appreciate it. Stephanie BC is saying, how are you listening to this? I was in the courtroom today. R. Keaton, no, I'm not going to be there today. I actually came to New York for something else, and I'm not going to be there today. But y'all, I think I'm a little addicted, and I'm trying to figure out, look at my schedule to see when I can come back. This is very addictive. But that's what happens when you're under a record label. You can't do hardly anything because of your image. But do they beat you up and abuse you also? Tell us that part. Okay, so let me get back to my notes over here. So she said she and Cassie were not able to go where they wanted to. And I thought it was kind of weird how it was it was her and Cassie that he was preventing from going where they wanted to. She's an employee. Why can't she go where she wanted to? And I didn't really, I mean, I guess. So remember, you have 12 people on this jury. They are all coming from different points in their life. They all have different perspectives. So just imagine you are a member of the jury. Do you understand how this employment relationship turned into a situation where you can't go where you want to go when you want to go? So y'all, I mean, am I crazy for being like perplexed that this was actually happening? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Don't call me Reggie. I think the prosecution is winning right now. Well, the prosecution is definitely winning, and I'll tell y'all why I think that a little later. Cassie was an employee too, but Cassie was in a relationship. Cassie was in a relationship with this man. I mean that was different. You just want Diddy to wave to you again. Okay, Diddy did wave to me again. I talked about this at the beginning, but Diddy did wave to me again. Diddy might think I'm somebody who, maybe he has me confused with somebody. But yeah, he did wave at me again today. But at any rate, let's see. So Mia, for those of you who are just coming in, Mia is the witness who was. Oh, look at my tiara. I love it. I love it. I wish they would leave these up longer because they look so pretty, but they're there for like a second. But thank you. Um, uh, Mia was Puff Daddy's personal assistant, but she testified today under a pseudonym. We don't know her real name, and yeah, we don't know her real name. So what I'm talking about is her testimony. She said that she saw bruises and injuries on Cassie. She saw Diddy attack Cassie, throw her on the ground, and cut her head open. So this was the situation that Deontay described, where Puff Diddy came over to Cassie's apartment. He threw her on the ground, started kicking her, and she hit her head on a bed frame, and she had that gash. Y'all probably have seen that picture of a gash above her eye. So she talked about that situation. Now, there were very subtle differences between what she testified about and what Deontay had said. She said that Diddy came in with a key, that he may have gotten a key from the doorman. Deontay said he let him in. Oh, what else? Deontay said Cassie was asleep. She said Diddy came in and she didn't say Cassie was asleep, but she said Diddy came in and started yelling at Cassie about her drinking, saying that Cassie had been drinking. And they both say that Diddy threw her to the ground and that she and Deontay tried to stop it, tried to help Cassie and stop it. So, so they talked about that. She says that Diddy's eyes turned black when he was beating Cassie in that situation. Then they talked about a situation in 2011 or 2012 when she and Cassie went to a Prince party. Now, people are talking about there's some Prince audio that is not true. There's no Prince audio, but they did go to a Prince party. And yes, so Drowsy Panda says there's a very strong trauma bond between Cassie and Diddy and Mia and Diddy. So she said they went to this Prince. So the Prince party was the night before an award show. And Diddy had told Cassie not to come to the house because he was at the house with his kids. So Cassie and Mia, they found themselves alone and they got this invite to Prince's party. And so they're like, what should we do? Should we sneak out and go to the party? So they decide to go to Prince's party. She said they went to the party. They're dancing. I think she said it was a gazebo. They're dancing. They're having a good time. Then all of a sudden, Mia sees Diddy walk in. And she said they locked eyes. She alerted Cassie that Diddy is here. And they start running out of the house. So they run out of the house. They hide. Cassie hides outside in the bushes. Mia, she's running to get away. And Diddy catches up with Cassie. And he's starting to physically abuse Cassie. But Prince's bodyguard step in. Prince's security steps in and prevents him from doing it. Did Diddy get to stay after hours with attorneys? Not today. The judge said he was going to work on it. So that hasn't happened. Where's the portion when she says she wants to come back to work for him after all this? That's going to be at the end of her testimony. Is her name Danielle? Whose name? The person who was testifying? Sade is saying, who else saw this at the party? She didn't say who else saw it at the party. She just talked about, what was happening to her and Cassie. So that was the thing with Prince. So there was this motion by the government, by the defense during her testimony, but I'll get back to that later. So she talks about a trip to Turks and Caicos, and she, at this point, I wrote in my notes, Diddy shaking his head when she's testifying. So at this point, Diddy is like shaking his head, disagreeing with her. So she testified that Cassie, they were in Turks and Caicos, and Cassie came running into her room, screaming, help me, he is going to kill me. And so she and Cassie started pushing furniture against the door to try to keep him out of the room. And while she's saying this, Diddy is shaking his head. He's sitting there shaking his head. Um, and she and Cassie get out of the room. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Don't call me Reggie. I appreciate that. I look dapper in this hat. So she and Cassie got out of the room and they're running on the beach, trying to get away from Diddy. She was asked, why didn't you report these things that were happening? And she said she thought it fell under the confidentiality of his business and she wanted to protect the confidentiality of his business. Then they talk about December 22nd, 2017. This is the day that they say Diddy broke into Kid Cudi's house. And she said on that day, she sent an email to one of the security people saying Diddy looks very dark, things were heavier than usual, but they kind of dropped it there. They didn't go into anything else regarding that. Okay. So I'm on my YouTube also, guys. If you want to follow me on YouTube, it's under Danielle Best. And I'm looking at the questions over there. There's so many questions over here on TikTok. It's a little easier to see the questions on YouTube. And there's nobody over on YouTube. There's 8 people. So it's not a lot of people. Hi, Lisa. Thanks for coming. So they turned to the hotels when Cassie would go to the hotel. So she said that somebody named Tony Fletcher would book hotels. He was an executive assistant for Diddy. Again, the government is bringing out who booked the hotels because it is relevant to their RICO charge. So that's why they're like, who booked the hotels? Oh, it's an employee for the Combs Enterprise to show how the Combs Enterprise was part of this RICO conspiracy. Thank you. Don't call me Reggie and Noella for the gifts. I appreciate them. Oh, thank you for that dolphin. Thank you for the roses. And so she said that she would have to pack Diddy for the hotel nights. And so she would pack toiletries, clothes, and lotions and potions. That's her exact word. She said lotions and potions, baby oil, condoms. Now, when she was testifying, my YouTube name is Danielle Best. I thought it was the same as my TikTok name, but people told me yesterday it's not. It's Danielle, Danielle Best, Bess. So those are the things she packed for him. But when she was giving this testimony, she seemed hesitant to say baby oil. So she used the term lotions and potions. And I had the feeling that even till this day, she kind of wanted, not, I'm not going to say want to protect him, but it's like she didn't really want to tell everything that she knew about Diddy. Why do they keep repeating the routines of freak offs? Because the reason they keep talking about the freak offs is because in the indictment against Diddy, they specifically talk about Cassie being sex trafficked, and the sex trafficking the government alleged happened in the freak offs. So that's why they keep talking about the freak offs. So she said that she was also responsible for cleaning up the hotel rooms after the freak offs. She said, she also said she'd have to buy candles, and she said that afterwards there would be wax everywhere, there'd be baby oil everywhere, and the reason they would go in and clean up is because they wanted to try to protect Diddy's privacy. They didn't want everybody in the hotels being able to get the things from the rooms that could be used to blackmail him or extort him. Hey JB, how you doing? Well, thanks for coming over to TikTok. Okay, so Jerry Morel is saying I sound much clearer on YouTube. I wonder why that is. That's interesting. I have a microphone. Let me see if this microphone will help over on TikTok. The TikTok, okay. Grand Duchess says whatever he has over these women is strong. I have to agree with that. I don't know what he had over them, but it was very strong. Hey, Lisa, thanks for coming over here. I'm going to put this microphone on and y'all tell me if it makes a difference, if it's better or worse. Okay, so she said she was cleaning up the hotel rooms after Diddy. She said that um, they started talking about drugs. She said that Diddy gave her, and y'all know I have to be careful because I got in trouble on TikTok the other day for saying, let me say rugs, and I can't really say names. Okay, I'm going to talk about initials. M. Put it up higher. It says not good. You sound clear before. Okay, I'm going to take it off. I'm going to take it off. Okay, so they're saying I can spell it out. So it was either MDMA or MMDA. I wasn't sure which one. And since I don't know about this stuff, y'all, I wasn't sure. So he gave her the rugs, and when he did, he said to her, "You're now part of the Breakfast Club." And she said she felt that she was now part of a close circle of friends who partied through breakfast. That's what that meant. And she felt safe taking them with him. And she felt the dynamic shifted to her being a friend and not just an employee. Oh, thank you, Nyla, for subscribing to my YouTube. You don't see the live feed? Huh. It's over there. Okay, Jerry Morrell, say meds. Okay. Yeah. Thank y'all. Um, I'm over there. There are people who are moving over to YouTube, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to find it. So the meds were making her feel closer to Diddy. And now he has me doing these meds, and now I'm a friend and not an employee. And then he tried to get her to do a med that starts with a K. Starts with a K. I think y'all might know what I'm talking about. Yes, thank you all. Please hit the thumbs up over here. I appreciate it. And so she didn't want to do it. She didn't want to take this med that starts with a K. Yes, it's for horses. Thank you. And he started humiliating her in order to do it. And the way they did it, I mean, this is when I was listening to this, I'm like, it's crazy. He put some white lines on a plate, and nobody knew what the white line was. The white line could be something for horses. The white line could be a Coca-Cola. The white line could be a lady's name, somebody name, who starts with an M. And so it was like roulette with these lines. And she didn't want to do it. She tried to fake it that she was taking it. And he came over and he was looking, and he kind of forced her to do it. And so they talked about her relationship with Mr. Combs. Oh, that's cute. Thank you. Thank you so much. Don't call me Reggie. I love that hat. She talks about her relationship with him. Sometimes he treated her like his best friend, sometimes like work partners, and sometimes like a worthless piece of crap. He humiliated her. He would say she was incompetent and stupid. Now, remember, he had given her that promotion to Revolt, director of productions for Revolt. He was working with her on that. He would throw things at her. He threw at her spaghetti, turkey meat, computer. This is one of the worst stories I have ever heard in my life. Oh my gosh, I hate to even tell it. Um so okay, y'all. So bear with me because I don't want TikTok to ban me for telling this story either. Um, so she said that she had been working all day. She had not been able to take a break. She had been working so much that she was on her cycle and she needed to desperately get to the bathroom to change her um feminine product. I don't know what TikTok bans or not. So y'all understand what I'm saying? I hope y'all I'm like you, Dinky Shop. I don't know the terminology also. Bright Grand Duchess, wasn't that wild? But y'all understand what I'm saying? Okay. So just imagine you've been working, your boss does not allow you to leave to go to the bathroom to take care of your feminine hygiene. So she's desperately needing to go to the bathroom to change her feminine product. And he's like, "Where you going? What you doing? Where you going?" And so he wouldn't let her leave. So finally, she gets to the point where there is blood dripping down her leg. And she finally said, "I need to go change my feminine product." And in response to her saying that, "Oh, what a beautiful swan. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you." And in response, he threw a bowl of spaghetti at her. And she said that she ran to get away from him. And then listen, y'all, this is the kicker. I mean, if that's not humiliating, disgusting, horrible enough, oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. Thank you, Reggie. Thank you for these beautiful flowers. Thank you. I have never had these many gifts before. Not just on TikTok in my life. Thank you. This is beautiful. Um Dinky Shop. Yeah, but for me, what I got from what she was saying, okay, men may not understand that, but why would you prevent somebody who is an adult who says, "Oh, I need to go to the bathroom"? Why would you prevent them from doing that? I mean, that's crazy. I was like, this was wild. So he throws a bowl of spaghetti at her. She ran to get away from it. But this is the kicker, y'all. Because of this incident, she was suspended without pay. She was suspended without pay. Now, the government did not ask, "Well, did you continue to work?" Because I was wondering, okay, you were suspended without pay, but did you continue to work? Did you leave? Did you go home? What happened? So I don't know. I was, and I doubt that the defense is going to ask her about that, because if she says, "Yeah, I was suspended without pay, but I kept working," I mean, that still looks bad for Diddy. So I don't know. Okay, Lisa. All right, I'll be careful with that. Oh, thank you, Lisa. I know, Miss Thompson, the way he was treating all the women in his orbit was just crazy. And I kept wondering, like, we haven't, when, oh, thank you. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much. Don't call me Reggie. He is being so generous tonight. I was wondering, we haven't heard a lot about Kim Porter in this trial, but what we have heard about Kim Porter, oh, that is so lovely. What we have heard about Kim Porter, it's been, people said, "Oh, he respected her," you know, Cassie respected her. These people are saying they respected her, but how was he treating her? Was he treating her the same way? I don't, yeah, I don't know. But anyways, that was that story. And to me, that was like one of the worst stories, because I mean, it's like so dehumanizing what he did for her. Somebody's asked how much was she making again. Initially, as an assistant, she was making 50,000. When she became the director of Revolt, the executive producer or something at Revolt, she started making 70,000 and eventually 100,000. Then they went to Turks and Caicos again, and she was outside in like a hammock in Turks and Caicos, and Combs just came up and dumped ice on her. He took her phone. She jumped up. She jumped on his back to try to get her phone. And she said that she didn't want him to look at her phone. And he threw her off into the pool. Then there's another instance where he took her phone. She ran after him and she's trying to get the phone. And the reason she didn't want him to have his phone because she's on in the phone texting another employee talking shit about him. And he didn't, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to curse. And so she didn't want him to see her phone. So she runs after him. She's trying to get her phone, and he's going into a bathroom and trying to close the door. And so she's trying to stop him from closing the door, and her arm is like in between the door, and he slams the door on her arm. So she said at first she thought it was a mistake. Then he did it like 2 or 3 more times. And then, she said she had bruises on her arm. And then we got to the part where the government started asking her about the sexual assaults. So you could tell that the government was getting close to the end of their questioning, although they didn't finish today. Live life. No, there were no pictures of the bruises. No pictures of the bruises. I agree. She was not being paid very much. Reggie laying it on thick. He is. I appreciate it. I mean, look at this paper crane. I appreciate it 100%. You got way too many people in there. There's no mods, love. I know I don't have any moderators. I'm gonna have to take care of that. Oh, okay. Thank you for Robbie. Y'all, I be forgetting you can't say these words. So essay. So that's when they started talking about the essay. So she said they were sporadic. She said Cassie was not around when they happened. She said she did not tell Cassie about them. She said she told nobody about them. She said she thought this was something she would take with her from this earth. Thank you, Ruby. So she didn't tell anyone. So she said the first time it happened was his 40th birthday party at the Plaza Hotel. She said she had been working with him a few months. I was surprised. She said she had been working with him for a few months, and they were in the penthouse suite. He asked to speak to her in the kitchen, and Diddy told her she was doing a good job. She didn't have to be scared to come directly to him. And he said this because she was going through another assistant, Malcolm, to ask him questions. Then he put shots of vodka in vodka and shot glasses for his birthday, for them to drink to his birthday. And she took 2 shots. She says she doesn't recall if she had been drinking that night, but she remembers that at that point she wasn't drunk. She remembers after she took the 2 shots thinking, whoa, I didn't eat. Maybe, I need to get some food because the shots hit her pretty hard. So I know what y'all are. So y'all see where this is going. And this is one of the things people have been saying about him drugging people or medicating people. And I think that's where this is going. So she said after she took the shots, he was still talking to her. But then she started to get fuzzy. He put her up against the wall and he kissed her. And he put his hand up her dress. She said she was not able to tell him no, that she was shocked and she froze. She next remembers being on a chair and she was fully clothed. She does not remember anyone else being there. She doesn't remember how she got from the kitchen to the chair. She thought it will never happen again. She thought it had been a huge accident and that it was because he had been drinking for his birthday. And she remembered that she had signed a confidentiality agreement and she thought, she couldn't say anything about it because she signed that agreement. Nora Blue, no, she was not around the freak offs. She was not. I think this is the third week of an 8-week case, although the government is saying they are going to be finishing early. So Dinky Shop, that was the implication that she had been medicated. Dinky Shop, no confidentiality agreements. Okay, is that Shannon Daniels, my friend Shannon Daniels? Okay, yes. Let me, I'm gonna make someone a moderator. Y'all hold on. Hold on. Let me find Shannon. How do I find her? Now, Shannon, you may have to text me because I don't really know how this works. Okay. How do I make her a moderator? Oh, I see it. Hold on. Almost done. Okay. But you have your headphones on. Okay. All right, so I just added you, Shannon. Tell me if you can see it. So let me know. Send me a message. Let me know. Okay. So that's what she says about this is the first time that it happened. And she was thinking it's never going to happen again, but it happened again. It happens again. And somebody said, "Can you please talk about the stylist testimony?" I will. I talked about it a little earlier. I'll come if you got any specific questions, let me know. But I talked about it a little earlier. So that of course that was the first time, but unfortunately it was not the last time. So the next time it happened, they were in New York in his apartment, and Uncle Polly, thank you, Francis, for that beautiful heart. Uncle Polly gave her a warning, and Uncle Polly was one of Diddy's security guards, and he gave her a warning. He said, "I've seen this happen before." And she felt he was like giving her a warning. Um, but she was in his apartment in New York. He asked her to pull up something on the computer. He leaned over her and she was very uncomfortable. She said it was in a very uncomfortable way. And she said, "Oh, I have to pee really bad." And she said she had to go to the bathroom. So she got up, she left. And then he said, when she came back, he said, "Okay, see you tomorrow." So she was like, "Okay, that's over with. Nothing happened." So she thought she was fine. Can you please help explain RICO for those that still think there is none? I will. Because the 2 days that I've been in the courtroom, the government has absolutely been proving their RICO case. So, and I'll talk about that some more. I'm trying to fix my stand, guys. I don't know why it's falling. I just did something to it. Thank you for the follow. If you don't follow me, please give me a follow. I am talking about the Diddy trial. I am also live over on YouTube, so y'all can find me there if it is too much going on over here in TikTok. Will they? No, nobody is talking about doing that with Kim Porter. With Kim Porter, Elaine. Um, I think I did give her full mod powers. Okay, so the third time that a SA situation occurred. So they were in the Beverly Grove house, which I believe was the house in California. She was upstairs in one of the bedrooms, and she was on a bunk. It had a bunk bed, and she was on the lower bunk. And her bedroom door was not locked. Remember how the government had asked her earlier about locking her door? Thank you, Reggie. Thank you. About locking her door, and she wasn't able to. So her bedroom door was not locked because Diddy didn't allow people to lock doors in his house. She woke up and she felt the weight. Oops. Darn it. Let me fix this, y'all. She woke up and she felt the weight of someone on top of her. And she realized it was Puff on top of her. Thank you. Don't call me Reggie. And he was using one hand to put his pee, I guess I can say pee. You know, y'all understand what I'm saying? I don't want to say too much, but he was using one hand to put his, where. And she was terrified. She was confused, ashamed, and scared. Those are the words she said. She said it was very quick. The prosecutor asked her how did it end, and she said she didn't remember how it ended. Okay, JB, is that a safe word to say, beefcake? So that was the third time. The fourth time, they were again in the Beverly Crest house, and she was getting him ready to go to a meeting. So she was helping him pack, and she was inside his bedroom closet getting him ready to go. Puffy came into the closet. She looked up, and he was standing in front of her face. He had his beefcake out, grabbed her head, and put it in her mouth. She froze. She didn't do anything. She felt like trash. She felt scared. It was really fast. And those were her words, where she said, she felt like trash. She felt scared. She said there were other times also when this happened, but she said she couldn't remember them. Oh my gosh. I don't know why let me fix my stand, y'all. I'm not sure what I'm doing over here that it keeps falling. Okay. I think I fixed it. Now I can't get my screen back. Oh no. Let me see if I can fix it. Y'all, I'm like the worst live streamer ever. What is this saying? Okay, I'm back. There we go. Okay, so she said there were some other times, but she can't remember them. She just remember feeling sick to her stomach. She never told Diddy she wanted to have relations with him, and she never told him no. She did not want to have relations with him. Oh, thank you, Lisa. Thank you. I know I shouldn't be talking like that to myself. Yes, so we are talking to Mia if you're just coming in. He threatened her with the essays. He said he was going to tell everybody that she was the one who initiated them. And he said he was going to tell Cassie. Now, remember, She and Cassie were best friends. So she's saying, "Oh, I'm going to tell Cassie you were the one initiating this." She felt desperate, terrified, and trapped. She felt it was her fault. She didn't tell anyone about the essays. She would have been she didn't tell anyone because she would have been silenced, punished, and exiled from her family. And when she said this, she would have been exiled from her family. I think she was talking about like Diddy and the employees, the other employees that she worked with. She didn't go to HR because it was HR was only around when Diddy wanted them. And she said this was before the Me Too movement or social media or any type of essay awareness. Thank you, Holly Collier. Thank you. She said she also saw other employees speak up about abuse and they were fired. So they talked about one employee in particular, Kayla Faulkner. She spoke up after the bed frame incident, and Kayla told the chief of staff that she thought Diddy was abusing Cassie, and Kayla was fired, and she didn't want that to happen to her. That is where her testimony ended today. And the government said they are not finished with her direct testimony. Um, Holy moly, he's horrible. Did jury show any reactions? So the jurors were paying attention. So they were most of them were turned toward her, like almost all of her testimony. They were paying attention to her. They weren't going back and forth, like looking at the prosecutor and looking at her. Their attention was towards her. So now all the jurors were not taking notes. There were some jurors who were taking notes. So the ones who were consistently taking notes that I can see, there are like two jurors that are kind of blocked from where I was sitting, but I could see juror number 5 and 6. They were consistently taking notes. The juror behind number 6, I think she's juror number 12. She is the 76-year-old Black woman. That woman, she wouldn't take any notes, but she was paying attention today. I did see juror number 6 at one point. He fell asleep. He had his head down like this, and he was kind of dozing off. I also saw one of the alternate jurors who fell asleep, a lady, Black lady on the top row. She was, taking a little nap. And I will say that in the afternoon, the testimony felt like it was dragging. And actually several people around me were like, kind of dozing off. And if you go to sleep in the courtroom, the public, if we go to sleep, the marshals will put you out for the day. They do not allow you to go to sleep in the courtroom. Oh, thank you for that beautiful flower. Thank you for that flower headband. So there was a guy who came in this morning. He fell asleep and they made him leave. They don't say wake up. They don't say wake up. They're like, you got to go. So my law partner was there with me today, and I had to nudge her a couple of times. I'm like, wake up. Don't you wait. You ain't getting kicked out. I'm not getting kicked out. So if you get kicked out, I'm not going with you. So what else? What else do y'all want to know? So that's what I saw as far as the jurors were concerned. I told y'all about how Diddy was shaking his head throughout her testimony, like, especially when she talked about the assaults, he was shaking his head. He didn't shake his head when she started talking about the sexual assaults, but when she was talking about the physical assaults, he did shake his head. Now I may have missed it, of course, but That's just what I observed. There was also a point where right when we took the first break, that the government, um, the lead attorney Agnafilio, he didn't make an objection, but he made this kind of weird uh, statement that kind of pissed the judge off. So the government announced to the judge, and I'm trying to find my notes where this is. Let me find my notes so I can make sure I get this right. Okay, so um, he stood up and he said the government is trying to get the court on its side for when the witness testimony should end. And the judge is like, what are you talking about? Jerry Morrell, no one else took the stand. In the morning, Deontay finished his testimony, then Mia started her testimony. So when the defense attorney said this, the judge was like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? So the prosecutor has been telling the judge, we think we're ahead of schedule. No, I'm sorry. That's a separate one. I'll tell y'all about that. But in this instance, the prosecutor said, we think we'll be finished with Mia's testimony by the end of tomorrow. By tomorrow, we'll be finished with her testimony tomorrow. And she has a flight scheduled for the weekend. So they were, giving the court a heads up and also giving the defense a heads up. So the defense attorney is like, we think the prosecution is trying to get the court on its side from when the witness testimony should end. And the judge says, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. He said this. He has not cut the defense short. He has given the defense all the time they need. And he said what the prosecution is doing is common courtesy to let us know about any potential scheduling problems. And then the prosecutor got up and says that that they have to rearrange flights, and so that's why they're given notice. So if the defense needs to change anything, they can change it. They can change if the defense needs a witness longer, they can change it. And the judge said, I don't see what the prosecution is doing as posturing, and defense is not. He said the defense is not constrained. So he seemed a little ticked about that. So tomorrow, Mia is going to finish her direct testimony, and then she's going to be cross-examined by Brian Steele. Do you think the judge is? I don't think so. I think I heard the judge is married. Now, who he's married to, I don't know. And I agree with you. The judge is handsome. And the judge looks young. He's 45 years old, but he looks younger than that. So tomorrow, Mia is going to finish her testimony, and then she's going to be cross-examined by Brian Steele. I predict it is going to be a very tough cross-examination for her. I described for you all, I don't know if you all were here at the beginning, but I described her, I described Mia, how she was testifying, her body language, and it's going to be, and also how she was talking. Like sometimes she was not even speaking in complete sentences. When she talked about the assaults, of course she got emotional. And no, she was not behind the screen. No. The only thing that is confidential about Mia is her name. But you can see her. Now, I was sharing with people earlier that my law partner who was there with me today, she calls herself a wigologist. And she was like, Mia is wearing a wig, and that is not the color of her hair. And I am not a wigologist. I couldn't tell whether or not she was wearing a wig or not. But if she was wearing a wig, I think it would be for the purpose of further concealing her identity. Sela, they've already lost. You may be right about that because I'm going to tell you that when we were leaving the courtroom today, that almost every single person said they think that Diddy is, that he is guilty. There was not one person who was like, "Oh man, I don't believe her. I think she's lying. I think the prosecution is doing a terrible job." I mean, there was nobody saying that. Donna Fisher, were you really in the courtroom? Yes, I was really in the courtroom. Um, so I think the prosecution. I mean, there's just so much testimony that they have been able to proffer about Diddy's behavior. And I know people, and I have said this also, that, it doesn't feel like they're proving the RICO case. But in reality, as I listened the last 2 days, I definitely heard how they were proving their RICO case. Especially with the employees that they were bringing into the case. And somebody is saying, explain the RICO case. And I think let's talk about this RICO case. Now, there is something I did not understand about Mia's testimony today. And somebody asked, is Mia white or black? Mia was white. Mia is white. Um, but there's something I didn't understand about Mia's testimony today. I found it very I'm not going to say confusing. I was trying to understand how how all of the testimony that she was given today, how why the judge thought it was appropriate for it all to come in, because a lot of what Mia talked about was what happened to her. And I was like, I need to go back and look at this indictment because I don't think Mia is in this indictment. And if she's not in this indictment, it doesn't make sense that she would be able to give this testimony about what was happening with her employment. So I'm not seeing how that part was relevant. How was Diddy looking during Mia's testimony? So his back was to me, but I couldn't see his face, but I did see him shaking his head like no during parts of her testimony. A couple of other things I noticed about Diddy: when the jurors come in the courtroom and when they leave the courtroom, everyone stands. In fact, we are instructed to stand for the jury. Diddy was not standing for the jury. There were two occasions when Diddy was sitting down. The first time I noticed this, he's sitting down. Do you think Mia received a settlement also? I'm going to address that question in a second because that came up. Uh, Diddy was not standing for the jury. The first time I noticed it, he's sitting there. Everybody in the courtroom, including the judge, is standing for the jury. Diddy is sitting. And one of the attorneys behind him is like nudging him, like, stand up, stand up. So finally he stands up. So later on, when the jury is leaving the courtroom, I notice Diddy is the only person who is sitting. He does not stand. And I'm like, man, these are the 12 people who are about to decide your fate. You need to get on your feet and show them some respect. You know, Now, honestly, a lot of those jurors weren't paying attention. They weren't looking towards Diddy, but no, I mean, you definitely need to be on your feet, showing them some respect. And I got the feeling that Diddy still believes he has control over what is going on. We have heard all this testimony about how he has controlled so many people around him. And it feels like he still thinks he has control. Now, I told y'all about how yesterday and today Diddy waved at me and smiled at me. And some people, did you see Armin Wiggins? Yes, I saw Armin Wiggins. We were sitting next to each other. Armin is my new friend. In fact, in the video I posted this morning, Armin is in the video. um but I got the impression, with the waving at me and all of that. So when he waved at me and smiled at me both times, his family was not in the courtroom. And there were not people who there are people like his family, his publicist is there. There are people who are his supporters. They're his people. And they are in the courtroom sometimes, although they get there late every day. But they're in the courtroom, to support him. But when he waved and smiled, they were not there. And I felt like he was doing that. He was waving and smiling. Oh, thank you for the fireworks, Kayla. He was waving and smiling because he believes that people are on his side. He believes that, everybody who's there in the courtroom, whether he knows them or not, they are supporting him. And so he sees me or anybody else in the gallery, and he's like, "Oh, you're here? Well, you got to be here for me. So, hey, let me give you a heart." So that was the impression that I got. And then when he's sitting there not standing up for the jury, it's like, man, this is out of your hands. This is truly a moment when you have absolutely no control, because you can't control what those 12 people are thinking. And the least you can do is get on your feet to show them some respect. And we stand for the jurors, because these people have taken, in this case, months out of their lives to do this public service and this public duty, for, not just the prosecution, the defense, the defendant, but jury duty is a public service. It is something that we all have to do. So I see y'all saying, narcissism at its finest. It was definitely very striking to me that he was behaving like this. Okay, somebody wants to know if Mia has gotten a settlement. Now, um, I don't have in my notes that they asked her directly if she had any type of settlement, but what she testified to is that she had never told anyone about the essays, and that she had intended to take this to with her to, the end of her days. So they didn't ask her specifically if she had any type of lawsuit or anything like that. That part of her statement gave me the impression that no, she hadn't pursued it. She wasn't pursuing anything like that. But the fact that the government didn't ask her, well, are you pursuing any type of claim against Diddy, makes me think she might be. She did have a bunch of lawyers in the courtroom with her. So there was a section in the courtroom reserved for her support, her friends, her family, and I didn't know who they were. And the marshals made us wait in the courtroom until they went out the courtroom. And so I asked one of the marshals, "Oh, who were those people?" And I was told that they were the witnesses, lawyers, and family. Thank you all for the likes. I appreciate it. If you don't follow me, please give me a follow. We are over here talking about the Diddy case. Did the judge respond to the defense request to meet with Diddy later? So today the judge said he had received their letter request and that he had already talked to the appropriate people and he was waiting with the response. He did say that he thought they would be able to work something out. Lex defender, she's a credible witness. User 46845. I hope the jury do the right thing and Trump don't pardon. You're so pretty and beautiful. Oh, thank you. Now, y'all remember there are filters here. Did you wave back? The first day I did wave back. Today I kind of smiled like I did like that. Will you be in court tomorrow? Sadly, no, I will not be in court tomorrow. How do we know this isn't a cash grab? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how you know it's not a cash grab. I mean, you're talking about people's motives, so I can't tell you what people's motives are. I can just tell you what they testified to, how they testified. That's all I can tell you. Okay, so I think we need to look at this indictment so we can remember why we're in the courtroom. And somebody was asking, what is the jury makeup and demographics? Okay, so let me remind y'all of the makeup and demographics of the jury. There are 4 men. No. There are 8 men. There's a total of 8 men and 4 women. There are 4 white men. One is 76. One is in his 60s. One is in his early 70s, and one is in his 30s. There are, so that's the 4 white men. There's 1 Asian man. I think that's our neuroscientist. No, and there's also an Indian. So there's an Asian man and there's a Southeast Asian man. Okay, so that's 5, our Asian guy. And then there are 3 black men, I think. One is a social worker. Then there are 4 women. There's an older black woman who's like 76 years old. There's a Hispanic woman who's young, who's a younger woman. Then there's another black woman who likes Harry Potter, and yesterday she wore a Gryffindor shirt. I think she has 2 children. And then there's another black woman who's like, I don't know, 40s black woman. So those are the jurors. Then you have 6 alternates. One of the alternates today, when he walked into the courtroom, he was sitting on the very end. So I think he's number 18. He's sitting on the very end, and there's a big screen at the end of the jury box. And the screen partially, like he wouldn't be able to see around, he wouldn't be able to see all of the jury rows because the screen blocks it. So he walks in and he goes to his seat, and then he starts kind of looking around, like he's looking around the jury room. Like, let me see who's in here today. I mean, he's like scanning the entire gallery of, everybody who's in the courtroom. And I noticed later on when he was in the jury box and he was sitting down, he was like looking out at who's in the jury room. And I'm like, I don't know what he's doing. No, they are not sequestered, Hashem. They are not sequestered. I'm like, what is he doing? Why is he looking out at the audience the way he is? But yeah, so that was, I was just like, I wonder, he looks like he's very interested in what's going on out there. Now he's number 18. It's probably very, very unlikely for them to get to him as a juror. Sean Don is asking, what was the difference between your opinion and your law partner? So this was the big kind of discussion as we were leaving the courtroom today with some of us who were in the audience. So I was in the camp that said I'm not sure she is going to stand up to scrutiny when she is cross examined, because staying there with Diddy after the first day, I think Brian Steele is going to really affect her credibility. I think she's not going to look. I think he's going to be able to really put a dent into her credibility, and she doesn't. It she so based on today, the way she was testifying, she is not a very strong witness. Like she doesn't seem to be the type of witness who's going to be able to push back like Deontay today. Deontay had some control over what was happening with his cross examination. He was getting sassy with the attorney. In fact, the judge had to tell him, hey, just hold on, wait till you get a question and start answering. Um, so, um, but this witness, remember, I told y'all this witness testified like this the entire day, literally her head down, not looking at the prosecutor, not looking at the witnesses, not looking at anybody. This is how this woman testified. Many times she did not use complete sentences. The government had to restate what she said to really make sure everybody understood what she was saying. So this is not a witness who is going to have a good day during cross examination. And I think Brian Steele is going to portray her as somebody who is not a reliable witness. Now, there was a other camp of people like my law partner who were like, oh no, there's nothing Brian Steele is going to be able to do tomorrow that is going to make her less credible. We believe her, and the jurors are going to believe her. So that's kind of where it boiled down. I think she's going to have a very difficult day tomorrow. We will see. And also, if she comes in tomorrow and she's not doing this, head down, unable to look at people, and she's all of a sudden, kind of like, who you talking to? Pushing back, that's going to be strange also. Hey, B, no, I am not going tomorrow. So I've told of course, I made a bunch of friends there the last 2 days, and I'm like, I'm calling y'all to get some info. Okay, Brooke Kirkland, let's talk about these charges. So I have the indictment here in front of me. So let's talk about the indictment, because this is what the jurors are going to have in the jury room with them. They're going to have jury instructions, and they're going to have this written document to help them figure out, has the government proved their case. And so, in order for the government to prove their case, there's certain elements of racketeering that the government must prove. And so the government kind of lays out in its complaint what they believe the facts are, and so they have to actually prove the things that they lay out. So for count 1, which is the racketeering conspiracy charge, so the government has to first show not that it was just Diddy, because racketeering requires more than one person. Conspiracy requires more than one person. It requires at least 2 people, but for racketeering, you got to show that it was an organization, a criminal organization. And the way the government is trying to show there was a criminal organization is by showing that he had employees who were involved in the crimes that they are alleging. So in the testimony of Deontay, and also in the testimony of Mia today, the government was pointing out, oh, D-Rock was involved in in bringing Cassie back, preventing Cassie from leaving, doing these things to Cassie. Uncle Paulie was involved in doing this. Another name they called a lot, Tony Fletcher Byas. She was Diddy's chief of staff and at one time part of HR. They repeatedly talked about Tony Fletcher Byas and how Cassie reported. No, wait a minute. Let me make sure I get this right. Tony Fletcher Byas, somebody, I can't remember who it was, reported to HR, Tony Fletcher Byas, that Cassie was being abused. Oh, it was Kayla. And HR, HR is part of the enterprise, part of the criminal organization, did nothing. So that's how, hello, that's how they are proving their case. So that's one of the things they have to prove, that there was a criminal organization and there were members and associates of the criminal organization, which is the Combs Enterprise, engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other activities. So these are the activities: sex trafficking, forced labor. Forced labor, who is that? Oh, forced labor. I didn't realize they had forced labor in here. Okay, now it all makes sense why they had the testimony of Mia, because they showed that there was forced labor. She worked for 5 days straight. She couldn't leave and go as she wanted to. That's the forced labor. Interstate transportation for purposes of prostitution, coercion and incitement to engage in prostitution, narcotic offenses. Remember the testimony we heard today about the medications that Mia was forced to take, take, kidnapping, arson, Kid Cudi, that's the arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Okay? They don't have to prove each and every one of these. They have to prove one, that he did one of these. They don't have to prove every one. So you see how easy it is for them to prove this racketeering. This rack. Oh yeah, right. It was Capricorn who also sent her a message. So you see how easy it is for them to prove that part. But that's not the only thing they have to prove. But that's one thing. Okay, so that's one thing. And then I'm just looking at the criminal indictment. The Combs Enterprise, including its leadership, its members, and its associates. Leadership is Diddy. Members: D-Rock, Uncle Polly, Tony Bias Fletcher, KK, Christine Quorum. Those are the members. Okay, its members and its associates constituted an enterprise that is a group of individuals associated in fact, although not a legal entity. The Combs Enterprise consisted of Sean Combs, entities within the Combs business, including but not limited to Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprise, and Combs Global. So throughout the testimony yesterday and today, we heard how Bad Boy was the entity that controlled Cassie, that controlled her record contracts and all of that. And then it says individuals employed by and associated with the Combs business and others known and unknown. Those are the people who are involved. Then it goes on to say the Combs Enterprise constituted an ongoing organization whose members function as a continuing unit for a common purpose of achieving the objectives of the Combs Enterprise. The Combs Enterprise was engaged in and its activities affected interstate and foreign commerce. interstate and foreign commerce. They're over in Turks and Caicos. He's over there abusing Mia. Okay, that's the foreign. Interstate, when he was taking Cassie to Las Vegas and taking her across state lines. So that's that part of it. So can you all see how the RICO is, falling in place? How, it's coming together for the prosecution? Is it making sense? K Love says it's a weak RICO. It might be weak, but all the government has to do is prove it as to not all of the things they're alleging he did, but they can prove one. Do you think the charges will be brought against Sony? Anyone else? I don't think so. It doesn't feel like the government is planning to bring charges against anyone else. The people Mia was texting, were they subpoenaed or required to file an affidavit? We don't know yet. Maybe they are on the witness list, but we don't know yet. Celia, yeah, it's actually the third week. No. Somebody was asking about a pew pew charge in here. No, I don't think I haven't seen. No, I don't think so. Okay, so the indictment goes on to say that Diddy was the leader. And it says that Combs, the defendant, and others known and unknown participated in unlawful and other activities related to the conduct of the Combs enterprise. These individuals included certain Combs business employees, such as members of Combs security staff, household staff. Tony Fletcher Bias Fletcher was his chief of staff, personal assistants, and high ranking supervisors, as well as other close associates. So they have already established this first part, that there was an enterprise, that there was a criminal organization. They've already done that. Then we go on to the means and methods of the enterprise. So this is how they were conducting their criminal activity. And they say, I'm trying not to read the whole thing, guys, that Combs and other members, they wielded the power and prestige of Combs' role at the business to intimidate, threaten, and lure female victims into Combs' orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship. Combs then used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims, including but not limited to 3 female victims. Victim 1, that's Cassie. Victim 2 and victim 3, to engage in commercial sex acts. Now, initially, I was thinking, is Mia victim 2? But Mia did not engage in any commercial sex acts. She testified about SA, but not any. No, so Mia is not victim 2. So we have some pretty, we got some more testimony to hear about victim 2. We know victim 3 does not want to testify. In connection with the commercial schmecks, I forgot, I can't say the word, acts, Combs provided the victims with, among other things, monetary payments, career opportunities, and payment of rent and housing expenses. He was paying for Cassie's rent. He, in fact, at one point, remember, Deontay testified, he told Cassie and Deontay to get their asses out of his house, and he kicked them out. He was giving Cassie money, career opportunities with the bad boy label. So, so all of the elements are falling into place. Then they say some of the commercial schmecks acts involved male commercial workers. So they're talking about the freak offs. Okay, they've proven the freak offs. The freak offs, that has been established. We've had enough testimony from Cassie about that. It's been established. We've had the male prostitutes, so we know that happened. Then C, it says members and associates of Combs Enterprise, including supervisors, security staff, household staff, personal assistants, facilitated the freak offs. Okay, we've proven that too. Even today, when Mia testified that she would set up the rooms, that she would clean the rooms. So that's proven. So this I'm gonna skip the stuff that talk about the freak offs because I think we can all agree that those freak offs would happen. Um, well, the testimony shows that it happened. Then it talks about him threatening victims, careers, and livelihoods if they resisted engaging in acts with Combs and with the male commercial workers. Then it goes on to say it talks about the security personnel at times carried firearms. On more than one occasion, Combs himself carried or brandished firearms to intimidate and threaten others, including victims and witnesses to his abuse. In or about March of 2024, when searching his home, they seized firearms and they seized firearms, ammunition, and 3 AR-15s. So y'all, they are proving the racketeering. I mean, they are. I mean, I'm reading this. I've told y'all what the testimony was. They are absolutely proving this. Then the next one is the sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion as the victim one. So that's Cassie. Now, is it possible the jurors may say, we don't think Cassie was forced to do the things that she did with Diddy? Yes, that is possible. Because, we'll have to see where they fall, but hey, that's possible. Then the one, transportation to engage in prostitution, from what I've heard in just 2 days, they've proven that. Then count 4 is schmex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. That's victim 2. We haven't heard from victim 2, so we don't know what she's going to say. And then there's another, transportation to engage in prostitution. So, in my opinion, they have. Hey, okay. Good night, Hayes. Thank you for coming over. Do you believe he'll get life for 10 to 15 years? If he is convicted of the racketeering, Diddy is going to be in prison for the rest of his life. That's just the way that's just the reality. By the time there's what's called a sentencing guidelines. By the time you do that sentencing guideline in federal court, he will end up in prison for the rest of his life. Yes, I'm about to wrap it up, people. My daughter has fallen asleep on me. Usher wasn't part of the FOs. No. Usher was not. So we were all thinking that the freak offs were this orgy type event. That's what I was thinking. But that was not it at all. It was 3 people: Cassie, Diddy, and the male worker. So, in fact, today, her best friend, who said she's her best friend, Mia, testified that no, I'm sorry, it wasn't Mia. Deontay testified. I didn't go through all my notes with Deontay. Deontay testified that even though he and Cassie, he said he was her best friend also, that even though he and Cassie talked every day since 2008, he knew nothing about the freak offs. She kept that quiet. She kept that private. He didn't know anything about it. Thank you. Well, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I thank you all for being here. Sarah Shannon, if you are still here, thank you so much. I'll touch base with you this weekend when I get myself home. And for those of you over on YouTube, thank you so much. So, y'all, I'm trying to do this YouTube thing. Since I was there at the courthouse these last 2 days, there were all these YouTubers. They were so nice. And they were like, no, you need to be doing YouTube. So, do y'all know Ratchet TV? Greg, that guy? Ratchet TV, he actually gave me a hands-on tutorial to show me how to do YouTube. And so they were like, just go live on YouTube. Just do it. And then Armin Wiggins, he's nice guy, real funny. I enjoyed meeting him today. Thank you, Shannon. And so I'm trying to be over here on YouTube a little bit. So when I go live on TikTok, I'm going to go live on YouTube until I get to the place where I'll just go live on YouTube. But you all have a good night. I'll check in with you all tomorrow. I appreciate all the gifts, all the follows, and we will check in tomorrow. Good night. Good night, guys.